Revenge is a 2017 gory action movie about a woman who gets sexually abused and thrown off a cliff by the bad folk she was hanging out with. After dragging herself back from the brink of death, Jen suddenly becomes a Rambo-level killer out for vengeance against the three jackasses who tried to off her. It's brutal, it's entertaining, and most importantly, it commits itself to the unrealistic narrative it portrays to deliver a movie which I regard as a way better modern take on Brandon Lee's final movie, The Crow, than whatever they just released starring Bill Skarsgård. Everything's there. The return from the grave after an unspeakable act of violence, the look change, the sudden transformation into an experienced fighter and weapon wielder, the superhuman healing factor connected to a bird figure. The movie even ends with a figure descending from the heavens to take her back to where she belongs. In this case, it's just a chopper taking her back to the city. The movie takes its time to present you the four characters before everything turns sideways. Jen begins as the blonde lover without much to add to any conversation apart from her looks, and my goodness, does she look good. On the other side of the ring, you have the grossest man alive, missing a munch in slow motion a lot. Iguana Man, the prince of perverts and asshole, the bad guy's so mad at everyone else because they gave him no character traits. This movie is stunning, and I don't just mean because of how beautiful our lead or how firm Kevin Jansen's but are. The cinematography in this movie is top-notch, from the beautiful desert shots and the colorful wardrobe designs to the practical effects used to portray most of the gore. The final confrontation has a long cat and dog chase around a circular hall that can be argued as being too long for its own good, but ultimately works well to show two hunters' full understanding of the situation they're in. In the end, I don't have much else to say about this movie except for all the great things I glossed over. It's not perfect by any means, and goes into uncanny territory too fast after spending the first half of the story showing a pretty grounded introduction. The reason I chose to talk about it to the half a dozen bots who are about to fill the view count up to 20 is for the surprise I got when I first watched it. The parallels to 1994's The Crow were too obvious not to notice.
People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes, just sometimes, the crow could bring that soul back to put the wrong things right.
I say that in a good way because, as a huge fan of Brandon's last work, I was thrilled to see what felt like a new take on that story being rebranded like something else instead of using a well-established brand's name to sell a project that deviates so much from the original work. At the time, though, the Crow remake was being planned by almost a decade, and reports were claiming Jason Momoa had been casted as the new Eric. As unnecessary and outrageous as those news came across, I now look back at them thinking Momoa would have been a way better choice than Skarsgård. I'm all for reimagining tales and new modern takes that might even fix some issues with the classics. And as biased as I am for that 94 classic, I acknowledge the cut scenes with a character that was never shown or noticeable during the movie's overly straightforward narrative. But if you're going to change too much about a beloved tale that was also a man's last great job, you might as well rebrand it as something else. Hell, that is yet another similarity to Jared Leto's Joker. Not only does Skarsgård's Eric rebrand the character from a cool poetic character into a tattoo edgy emo, it's also the next big portrayal of the same character on the big screen, and all it's trying to do is reinvent what made the character and his story so appealing to begin with. I admit this was made more as a vent about the new Horrible Crow movie than a review to the movie in question, but I seriously believe Revenge needs more recognition than it gets. See ya.